liquid IV. I really do. Just before we started recording, I went to my refrigerator, got my big glass of liquid IV that's always sitting in there, and I gulped it down. I have trouble meeting those hydration demands that you see all over the place. This is making it super easy. I feel like it is a delight to drink liquid IV to keep myself hydrated. And now that summer's here, I am going to keep taking it to the gym. I'm going to take it on my hikes. I'm going to make sure that I always have a supply on hand. It just is really a game changer for me.
Yeah, it's true. It's just one stick of liquid IV delivering superior hydration to water alone. It's 3 times more hydrating than the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. Plus, it's got 8 vitamins and nutrients, and it's hydration for endurance, mental clarity, and overall well-being.
They've got 4 delicious sugar-free flavors. I love the lemon lime. I also am totally digging the raspberry melon. It's a 0 sugar hydration solution. It's got no artificial sweeteners. It's clinically tested. It hydrates more than water alone. It's just terrific.
You can even pair liquid IV flavors with your summer activities. So you could take sugar-free white peach to the pool for some sunbathing. Liquid IV is a must-have for your bag of summer necessities.
So turn your ordinary water into extraordinary hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code Fluster at checkout.
That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration using promo code Fluster at liquidiv.com.
I'm telling you, you're going to love it. You have to be able to talk 85% less, to let your kids figure things out, and to not step in all the time in order to give your child all the answers to the big questions and sometimes to the small questions.
Welcome to Season 6 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we talk about a family's anxiety and all the big feelings, too. We tackle the serious stuff without being too serious, and I'm your co-host, Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author, and I've been a therapist for over 30 years. Parenting can be a Flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. I'll give you concrete steps to take and the words to say. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Lynn.
Do you remember the lovely pediatrician Jessica Hochman, who was a guest on our podcast a few episodes ago?
Of course. And she has her own podcast.
Yes, called Ask Dr. Jessica, which, if you haven't checked it out, people, lovely person, amazing guests. She was speaking on her podcast recently about a preschool where the kids have to wear their shoes during nap time.
Why is that?
Well, the reason is, Robin, good question. Just in case there's a fire, it would be easier to evacuate the children if they already have their shoes on. Okay. Just so you know, everybody, in case you're wondering, that's nuts. Because also you can evacuate kids without shoes. Do your kids sleep in bed at night with their shoes on in case they're a fire?
That was my next question. If the person who made that call, if she wears her shoes to sleep, that's also nuts.
That's also nuts. So I happened to be watching a group of preschoolers out on a playground recently. I had the opportunity to just sit and watch these cute little muffins running around. And it was a wonderful thing to watch because whoever is in charge of these little kids does not agree with the concept clearly of being so safety conscious that kids can't get dirty and play and figure things out. These little kids ran out onto the playground and they were running around and they all started taking off their shoes. And it was just contagious. They all took off their shoes and they were running around in the dirt and running around in the sand. It was such a contrast to making kids wear shoes during nap time to let kids feel the dirt between their toes. It was a little wet that day and these kids started getting water and pouring it on the mud and then riding their big wheels down the hill and having all sorts of skids and crashes. It was just letting kids play and get dirty and messy. And the adults who were in charge of them just sat there and watched these kids figure things out. We want to pay attention to that. We want to pay attention to the importance of just letting kids figure out without us hovering and controlling and critiquing and guiding and supervising, because an enormous amount of our social practice, executive functioning, all sorts of important skills happen during play. In the college process, right? If you feel like you're doing a good job and you're getting your child what they need for their dorm room, or you help them secure the money that they need, et cetera, there's always one parent that's going to be like, oh, but I did this and I did this. And I think sometimes the tendency is to begin to doubt and question that you're not doing enough. And I think the message that I want to convey is that as your kids are figuring things out, as they're stepping into new eras of their life, it is not your job to do more. It is your job to appropriately step back and let them figure things out.
So it starts in preschool and it just keeps going.
It does.
Yeah. So we got a listener question with a mom who has generalized anxiety disorder.
And just so you know, let me just define that a little bit. Generalized anxiety disorder is a anxiety disorder, and the diagnosis is given to people who are worriers. So it means you're an equal opportunity worrier. Whatever happens to come across your screen, you grab onto. And remember, worry is the ability to take anything and turn it into an emergency and then think and think and think. Worrying is not problem solving. Worrying is chewing your mental cud. So that's what GAD is.
So she writes, "Hi, I have general anxiety disorder and have worked on myself over the years, learning about anxiety and how it works. But I'm finding I'm being triggered a lot lately with my son who's turning 11. He has great awareness and has experienced anxiety for some time, and we practice tolerance and letting things be. And he's had many changes and has been adapting pretty well. New middle school, bigger responsibilities, etc. What I've noticed is some changes in his thinking. He's becoming deeper and more reflective and asks questions like, what happens after we die? We lost his grandmother recently. Does God have plans for me? He has noticed he is daydreaming too at times, just thinking. I think he has some hyper awareness as his threat system is on. A lot of health anxiety too. My question is, can this be a developmental thing for his age, or do you have an episode on tween teen brain development in stages of change with behavior, moods, and growth?" So we're going to take a break, so save it, and here we go.
Okay. Liquid IV. I really do. Just before we started recording, I went to my refrigerator, got my big glass of liquid IV that's always sitting in there, and I gulped it down. I have trouble meeting those hydration demands that you see all over the place. This is making it super easy. I feel like it is a delight to drink liquid IV to keep myself hydrated. And now that summer's here, I am going to keep taking it to the gym. I'm going to take it on my hikes. I'm going to make sure that I always have a supply on hand. It just is really a game changer for me.
Yeah, it's true. It's just one stick of liquid IV delivering superior hydration to water alone. It's 3 times more hydrating than the electrolytes of the leading sports drink. Plus, it's got 8 vitamins and nutrients, and it's hydration for endurance, mental clarity, and overall well-being.
They've got 4 delicious sugar-free flavors. I love the lemon lime. I also am totally digging the raspberry melon. It's a 0 sugar hydration solution. It's got no artificial sweeteners. It's clinically tested. It hydrates more than water alone. It's just terrific.
You can even pair liquid IV flavors with your summer activities. So you could take sugar-free white peach to the pool for some sunbathing. Liquid IV is a must-have for your bag of summer necessities.
So turn your ordinary water into extraordinary hydration with Liquid IV. Get 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code Fluster at checkout.
That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration using promo code Fluster at liquidiv.com.
I'm telling you, you're going to love it.
It's really fun to see all of the 80s and 90s inspired fashion that all the youngins are wearing these days. But can I tell you what I'm really glad was left in the 90s? 90s shapewear. And if you want to know what today's best standard of shapewear is, you need to try Honey Love. So everyone's heard of shapewear, but are you aware that now you can buy sculpt wear? Feel comfortable and confident this summer with Honey Love's best-selling Superpower Short. Their Signature X targets and sculpts your midsection without squeezing your natural curves. It's designed to work with your body, not against it, and it will never roll down. Don't you hate it when that happens? So this summer, maybe you have a lot of social events and weddings to attend and more nights out on the town. Hopefully, more vacations too. So that's why I'm so thankful that today's sponsor, Honeylove, covered us with the best shapewear. With Honeylove, you can feel your best even when you're wearing less. They've revolutionized compression technology, so you no longer have to feel like you're suffocating while wearing effective shapewear. Plus, they are the only shapewear that won't ever roll down, no matter how much you groove on the dance floor. Honeylove shapewear features lingerie-inspired design that you'll want to show off. And it's made with a breathable fabric that keeps you nice and cool, which is perfect for hot days and dance floors. For a limited time only, you can get Honeylove on sale. Get 20% off your entire order with our exclusive link, honeylove.com/fluster. Support our show and check them out at honeylove.com/fluster. This message is sponsored by Greenlight. As your kids get older, some things about parenting get easier. I could just tell my kids to walk home from school now. I don't have to pick them up every day. But other things don't, like having that conversation about money. The fact is, kids won't really know how to manage their money until they're actually in charge of it. That's where Greenlight can help. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families. Parents can send money to their kids and keep an eye on kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens build money confidence and lifelong financial literacy skills. With the Greenlight app, kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely thanks to games that teach money skills in a fun, accessible way. The Greenlight app also includes a chores feature where you can set up one-time or reoccurring chores customized to your family's needs. And you can reward kids with allowance for a job well done. This was a game changer for us because when I finally got my kids to do the chores, I can't say that I was always super great at remembering to pay them, and we couldn't keep track, and Greenlight has set us straight. Millions of parents and kids are learning about money on Greenlight, and it's the easy, convenient way for parents to raise financially smart kids and families to navigate life together. Sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/fluster. That's greenlight.com/fluster. to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/fluster.
Okay, we're back. So my first response to this question is going to be, Mom, chill out. When somebody says to me that they have generalized anxiety disorder and they're being triggered, so what does that mean when somebody says they're being triggered? It means that this content, which I don't really care about all that much, but this content has found its way in. This content is now presenting itself as meaningful, as important. And what happens is that somebody is worrying about something and maybe they resolve this thing they're worrying about. The anxiety, your worry, is looking for new things to grab onto. Because generalized anxiety disorder, worriers need something to worry about. You need some grist for the mill. The thing that you're worrying about is not the issue. It's the pattern of worrying. And anxiety is about storytelling. It's about taking something that's not an emergency and then wondering if it's an emergency. Oftentimes there's a lot of research going on, a lot of questioning, a lot of doubt. As I read this question from this mom who says she's done a lot of work on her anxiety, so that's great. But as I read this, what is the thing that her worry is now grabbing onto? Well, she's got an 11-year-old who's entering adolescence.
Who's changing on her.
And so now, and really appropriately, really developmentally, this kid is beginning to ask bigger questions, thinking about these things that 8-year-olds don't think about very often. Does God have a plan for me? And what happens after you die? I mean, kids come to those questions generally at some point, some younger and some older. What the mom says is she's noted some changes in his thinking, right? He's becoming deeper and more reflective. Guess what? That means that he is becoming more mature. That's what adolescents do. That's what tweeners do. And she says he's noticed he's daydreaming too at times, just thinking. Totally normal. Kids daydream. Actually, kids should daydream more. That means that their mind is wandering. It's where creativity comes from. It allows your imagination to sort of venture into all different places. A lot of times I see now people say, well, my child is unfocused. He seems like he's just daydreaming. Is there something wrong with him? Does he have ADHD? No. Daydreaming is good. We're supposed to daydream. People used to daydream a lot more often because you were waiting in line or you were sitting on a bus or you were
looking out a car window.
Yeah, looking out a car window without a screen in front of you to keep you occupied in some way.
For the listeners here who have been listening to you, when you heard the mom mention all of these things, did you recognize what the content was and what the pattern was?
Yes, those are very good questions. Did you recognize what the content was? Did you recognize what the pattern was? And then also, did you recognize the seeking of certainty? The seeking of certainty is, how can I learn more about teen tween development so that I don't have to worry anymore? There's a different flavor to a question. When somebody is asking something because they're curious, it sounds and feels different to me that if somebody is asking something because they need the certainty, they need more information. One of the things that people who have generalized anxiety do, one of the things that worriers do is they research. So that's the seeking reassurance, the asking the questions. As the mom is talking here and saying that she's being triggered, if somebody asked me the question, look, I'm being triggered by my 11-year-old moving into a different stage of development, what should I do? What would my answer not be? My answer wouldn't be, do tons of research and get more information about tween and teen development so that you don't have to worry anymore. Do you see the difference? It would be like if somebody said, well, my child is really nervous about going to summer camp, or I'm really triggered about sending my child away to summer camp. What should I do? I wouldn't say, well, find out everything you can about the camp, go to the town, map out where the pharmacies are, rent a cabin a mile from the camp just in case you need to be there. That would not be the answer. The answer is, how is it that your worry shows up? What have you learned about your pattern? How do you tolerate uncertainty? How do you tolerate the big unanswerable questions that you are asking? And how do you tolerate the fact that your child is now asking big unanswerable questions?
One thing that will help this son as he goes into adolescence and has other anxiety patterns that are present that might be getting a tad more sticky and more reoccurring, the most helpful thing for him would be also that the mom is addressing her own and modeling the fact that she's self-aware that those patterns are showing up for her and helps her son be aware that those patterns show up for him. I like that you've always said it's a family problem and a family solution.
Because here's where we see the projection. Here's where we see the melding, where it's difficult to differentiate between a parent's anxiety, a parent's worry, and a child. When she says, I think he has some hyper-awareness as his threat system is on, also a lot of health anxiety. Now, when I'm sitting with a family, when I'm hearing this, the first question I'm going to ask is, do you think you have hyper-awareness? What is it like in your family when you're talking about health? What is the language that you as parents use when you're talking about different things like what happens after we die, or what do you do when you have a sore throat? What is the language and what is the approach that you use that perhaps you are modeling for him? And again, this is not about guilt or blaming. It's about really being aware of your own patterns. Truly, I was just thinking about this the other day when I was out on a walk. The thing that makes or breaks this for most people is an owning of your own patterns and a recognition of your own patterns, because then it makes it so much easier for you to model and teach your kids. Without a recognition of your own pattern, if you are worried about your child's worry and you are showing them how to worry about worry, if you are worried about your child's health, if you are worrying all the time about whether or not your child is normal, your questions, your interactions, every time you engage with them, it is very hard for them not to pick up on that. That's just a fact. And when you have a pattern and then you begin to talk about it openly and you begin to own it, then you are really putting up a very helpful little permeable shield between you and your child so that they don't have to absorb your worry and your anxiety in a way that is unquestioned, in a way that is oftentimes very powerful when kids don't know about this.
Let's take a break, but when we come back, I have a question because she references that we're working on letting it be and tolerance of anxiety. And I'm very curious about the difference between that and accommodation.
All right. Hey, Flusterclux listeners. This episode is proudly brought to you by Lola V, an award-winning hair care line founded by the fabulous Jennifer Aniston. You know, hair so iconic, it needs no introduction. We put our hair through the ringer, don't we? I mean, I'm old. I dye my hair. I blow dry my hair. I want my hair to look good. We have stress that impacts us. We're aging. The list goes on and on. And over time, it takes a toll. Honestly, Jen got tired of the damage and the struggle of having to choose between hair products that work and ones that are actually good for us. So instead of mixing this cream with that serum, she decided to bottle something of her own by diving into the science of it all while using naturally derived plant-based ingredients. Speaking of Jen, you may have heard some recent buzz about how good she smells. And here's the secret. Her secret scent, it starts with Lola V. These products smell so good. When I tried it, the scent was incredible. And I'm not a big scent person. And these were really, really lovely. Here's a treat for you, you awesome listeners. For a limited time, you get an exclusive 15% off your entire order at lolav.com. Just use code Flusterclux at checkout. I mean, you're taking hair care advice from the Rachel. Growing up, oh my gosh, didn't we all want to have hair like Jennifer Aniston? So I have used the shampoo. There is a conditioner that you use just like normal. There's also an intensive conditioner that you leave on for 5 to 10 minutes. There is a detangler. There is this great hair oil that you have long hair like me. You put it on your ends that can get so damaged. After I use these products one time, I am not kidding you, my hair was so soft. It was so shiny. It looked great and it smelled fabulous. My husband used these products, and I'll tell you, his hair was so soft. I'm not kidding. Unlock Jennifer Aniston approved hair at lolav.com. As our loyal listeners, you'll get an exclusive 15% off your entire order when you use the code Flusterclux at checkout. That's 15% off your order at LOLAVIE.com with promo code Flusterclux. Please note that you can only use one promo code per order and discounts can't be combined. After you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Your hair will thank you.
Hey there, I'm Debbie Reber, the founder of Tilt Parenting and the author of the book Differently Wired. The mission of Tilt is to change the way neurodivergence, whether that's having a learning disability, having ADHD, being gifted, autistic, or some combination of all of the above, is perceived and experienced so differently wired kids and the parents like us raising them can truly thrive. On the Tilt Parenting podcast, I get to talk with authors, therapists, educators, and parenting experts who are committed to this mission. I ask the questions my listeners are most curious about when it comes to supporting our kids. And in turn, my guests share strategies for challenges, out-of-the-box ideas for navigating school, best practices for therapies, tips for advocating, and so many thoughtful insights on what it really takes to help our kids grow up feeling seen and respected so they can create awesome lives for themselves. I know that raising a differently wired kid can feel overwhelming and isolating, but I promise you, you are not alone, and it can feel so much better. If you're on this parenting journey, come listen to Tilt Parenting. Together, we can shift this paradigm and show up for our exceptional kids with hope, possibility, and joy.
Okay, so now back to the show.
Okay, so Lynn, that was another phrase that jumped out at me. We tolerate it and we just let it be. What's the difference between tolerating and accommodating the worry patterns and disrupting it like you instruct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So she says we practice tolerance and letting things be. Truly, like that's a good start. I love that language that she's using in terms of they're practicing tolerance. I think what you really want to recognize also is that helping a child with their anxiety or helping you with your own anxiety is a really active process because we are retraining the brain. And so if she's saying we let things be, meaning that we don't try and change them, we don't try and fix them, we can let things be uncertain, that's great. That's tolerating not knowing versus trying to figure out the answers to all of the questions. When we're accommodating, then we're stepping in, we're trying to answer all the questions, just like the camp example. Like, I don't know what my camp is going to be like. Well, let's figure it out. Let's answer all the questions versus, you know what? I don't know what your camp is going to be like either because I've never been to your camp. So we have that visiting day that we're going to go to, and then you're going to discover a lot of things when you get there because that's the fun part of camp. I love that she's saying they're practicing letting things be if they are doing it also in an active way where they're stepping into things, where the child is exploring things, stepping into new challenges, where she's allowing him to figure things out without her worry stepping in and making sure that she has all the answers ahead of time.
Parenting is so hard. We're in the middle of something that we're given a big dose of uncertainty, and we have to really consciously navigate this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it doesn't go away, right? Even when your kids are older, like my kids are, there's all sorts of uncertainty. And I think it happens throughout our adulthood too. This mom is stepping into a new stage of parenting, just as her son is stepping into a new stage of his own maturing. She's stepping into an age where he's going to be asking big questions. He's probably going to want to do more things on his own. He's going to have to figure out how his body and his brain works. I just don't know. I don't have enough information from this question. I don't know if this mom's seeking of a lot of information about teen and tween development is so that she can feel like she has all the answers ahead of time and not make any missteps. One of the things that I think is really important as your kids enter this stage of development is that there are going to be mistakes that you're going to make. They're going to get annoyed with you. You're going to do the wrong thing. The key thing I want everyone listening, including this mom, to hear is that you have to be able to talk 85% less, to let your kids figure things out, and to not step in all the time in order to give your child all the answers to the big questions and sometimes to the small questions. I was just talking to a young woman that I've known for a long time, and she is delightful. Her dad is a super duper worrier. And one of the things that we were talking about, and she's a young adult now, is that her dad has so much difficulty tolerating her emotions. And that's one of the things that she's really working on, being able to tolerate her emotions. But the dad steps in. If she's feeling something, he steps in right away and says, what can I do about that? How can I help you get rid of that? She's moving to a new city and she said, oh, I might be lonely when I get there. And he said, I do not want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. What can I do to make that not happen? That's what we have to pay attention to. Allowing them to tolerate and step in and allowing them to not be able to answer all the questions ahead of time.
To tolerate the changes that come and let them be.
Yeah. And so what if your child does come to you with these big questions, right? They come to, and it happens at any age. What happens after we die? Or what's the meaning of life? Or why are some people mean? Those big questions that we get handed. And we can just say to kids, we don't have to have all the answers. We can say to them, that is such an amazing question. And it sort of says to me that you're kind of thinking about things in such a big, deep way. I'm really impressed by that. What do you think? You could say, well, what do you think? And if they say, well, I don't know, you can say, I don't know either. And it's fun sometimes to think about and talk to your kids about this category of unanswerable questions. There are a lot of unanswerable questions. And one of the things that I rail about in terms of my profession is that there are a lot of therapists, a lot of clinicians that think that we have to have an answer to every feeling. We have to have a reason for every question, that we have to have a solution to every problem. And one of the really helpful skills that we can teach our kids, just like I teach my clients, is how do we tolerate not knowing? How do we just say, I don't know? How do we say, that's a really good question and I'm not sure I have the answer for you? I think that's a really helpful thing for this mom to hear also, is that we can sit with the not knowing and the not answering.
I think we all need that.
Yeah. It's hard, super hard. Never goes away.
It takes practice, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a meditation practice.
Yeah. I mean, I have to practice it with my kids all the time. And they're old. They're grown-ups. They're living on their own. I want to jump in. I want to answer the questions. You know, my younger son recently was like, I don't have a credit card. Should I get a credit card? I'm not going to say, well, that's one of life's unanswerable questions, right? I'm going to say, yeah, you should get a credit card. Call your bank. See what they have to offer. Find out about the interest rates. Pay attention to that. Pay your credit card every month. Don't let it accrue. Stuff like that.
Think one step ahead, as you often say.
Think one step ahead. Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify profile, and the link is in the show notes. Topics like teens, depression, and OCD. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, Robin.
Are you overwhelmed by the things that get in the way of you doing what you want to do? Are you looking for ways to simplify life to better align with your values? Do you want to create space in your schedule so you have room for more of the good stuff? Play, joy, relationships, gratitude, and more? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I invite you to check out Edit Your Life, a podcast to help you edit the unnecessary from your life so you have more room to enjoy the awesome. Through episodes with me, Christine Coe, and a range of super smart, compassionate, and thoughtful guests, you'll come away with big picture insights and practical ways to declutter your home, schedule, and mental space without getting bogged down by perfection. I have always believed that small moments and actions matter tremendously. My goal is to help you find agency and space in your life through doable baby steps that will leave you feeling accomplished instead of overwhelmed. Check out Edit Your Life wherever you enjoy your podcasts.